Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to Redox Nurse Talk. So, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight to hear about an amazing technology. And it's really your first step to your health and wellness. I'm Doria Stewart from Atlanta. Cindy Reed, my co host, is from Nashville. And we are independent associates with a global research cellular health company called ASEA. And our mission is to educate the public with this technology called redox signaling molecules and how you can incorporate this into your lifestyle. So we do need to state the disclaimer, and that would be that anything that you're going to hear this evening, either on our video or from our guests that we have on this evening, is not intended to treat, diagnose, or cure any medical health condition. So we both have, we're not going to share our testimonies, but we both have personal stories about how this has helped us, both personally, professionally, and medically as well. So each week we have the honor to host a guest, and this evening we have Susan Pyne that's been impacted by this technology. So Cindy Reed will be introducing her and interviewing her after our short video. So we're doing something new. We're always trying to figure out a way that we can make this a little bit more special and tweak things a little bit. So Cindy had a good idea about sharing maybe a wellness nugget, and so we are nurses are educators, and we're all about teaching our patients to be an advocate, a good health advocate for themselves. So I'm going to let Cindy take it from here and share that bit of information.
Okay. Thank you, Doria, and welcome and Happy New Year to everyone, 2024. This is going to be an awesome year, and we're excited about, we're going into our second year of Redox Nurse Talk, and this has been a fast year and hopefully an educational year for everybody. But like Doria said, we want to tweak some things and not only share about redox, but I just want to incorporate and we'll just take turns doing this on occasion, but just substitute something in, just some education about one nugget of something that could help with your health, which in a roundabout way is still tied to redox. So tonight I chose the topic of vitamin D3 because right now so many people have flu, COVID, RSV, and strep around here in Nashville, and just things that you're doing to boost your immunity. So I don't forget anything. I'm just going to read through my facts that I kind of put down on paper. And it's just amazing what a simple tweak in your health can do. So vitamin D3, 70% of Americans are low in vitamin D3 and they don't even know it because this is not a routine lab that doctors check, but you need to ask for it. And it needs to be D3 because that's the active form. And you have to take it, it's a fat soluble vitamin, so you have to take it with a fat when you take it. Just eat a fat or olive oil or something like that. But it's a huge driver for your immunity. If you're low in vitamin D3, you are at an increased risk for cancer, for autoimmune disease, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, depression, fibromyalgia, bone loss, cognitive decline, and the list goes on and on. It's actually more of a hormone, and it affects over 1,000 gene expressions, which can affect every process in your body. And what do we know about gene expression? We know that redox can turn on that gene specific for certain things that can actually improve your health. It regulates your calcium and your phosphorus. It supports your immune system. It's very effective in COVID, when you have COVID. And there's a study I'll talk about a little bit further down. It helps with fertility and menstrual problems. If your level is 60 nanograms per deciliter or higher, you have an 80% lower risk of breast cancer. I thought that was pretty impressive. It supports your sex hormones, your muscle health, your brain health, your cognitive, your mood, your oral, your dental, and your gut health. But there's some medications that can interfere with your D3. Oral steroids, chemo, blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds, antacids, and I'm sure there's a few more out there. But in 2020, they did a study on COVID patients in hospitals, and 80% of the severe COVID cases were deficient in vitamin D3, and they had worse outcomes. Dr. Mark Hyman is a doctor I listen to and follow a lot. And he stated, as we know, it takes about 17 to 20 years, maybe, for new discoveries to become implemented into practices. So that's why your doctor may not have heard of redox at this point. And so that's why we're spreading the word. Penicillin was discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928, but it took 15 to 20 years for the drug to be released. I think it was 1940s when it was released in America. So things take time. But vitamin D3 is a very inexpensive supplement. It's a simple fix. You need it for osteoporosis, for your bone health, but it has to be the D3. So have your levels checked, talk to your doctor, get it checked, and start on a supplement. And some of our supplements as well, I think, have D3 in that. But you can do a liquid form or you can do a pill, but it's huge for your immunity. So now I'm going to show a short video that will just demonstrate the technology. And I found another one with Dr. Mark DeBrincat that I thought was interesting. It's about 5 minutes. So we're going to show that one. And then afterwards, we will introduce Susan and let her talk. Tonight, what we've decided to do going forward, because as we're growing, we're going to have so many people with questions. So instead of opening it up for chat afterwards for questions, we're going to have you put your questions in the chat box. That way Susan can try to answer those before we hop off. If not, maybe we can get them to her either through Facebook or an email or something. But I just feel like we need to manage our time and try to make this as short as possible because we know people are busy and we don't want them to get bored and hop off. So we want them to really stay and hear about the technology. So let me share my screen and we will listen to Dr. Brimcat.
Today I'm here to talk about redox signaling molecules. So many of you maybe have never heard those words in a row before and actually know what that is. And so let me share. The inside of every one of our cells in our body, now remember we have over 100 trillion cells, and the inside of every one of those cells is filled with fluid. Well, that fluid is called redox signaling molecules. Now it's a very important fluid because it provides information to share with neighboring cells about what's going on in their world, in their environment. If there's something attacking that cell and interfering with the function of that cell, it needs to share that information with the cells adjacent. And so we have these things called hydrophilic channels that open up like an aperture of a camera. And as that opens up, it literally sends light energy from one cell to the next to share information about what's been going on in that cell or attacking that cell. And that allows the neighboring cells to adapt so that they don't get damaged by whatever that invader is. So think of being in a hotel room and you have several family members that are in the adjoining rooms that have an adjoining door on the inside. And if somebody was trying to break into my door on the outside, I'm going to open up these inside doors and tell everybody to be ready because there's something bad happening outside. That's much how the lining of our gut is designed and built. And we need these redox signaling molecules to be able to send that information about what's going on in that gut and how we can defend against all the bacteria that's maybe overcoming and trying to invade and damage part of that gut lining. So why is this subject even important? Well, it's really interesting that every decade of your life, you lose 10% of the fluid in those cells. So if you think of a young cell, a healthy young cell, it's much like a round ball that's tight. Now, every decade of life, you lose 10% of the air. It doesn't look so round anymore. It gets more flat or more like a disc. So for those of us that are over 50 years old, we're functioning on half the fluid in our cells that we used to have when we were thriving and healthy. So this is an amazing supplement that you can take that we can actually restore that redox signaling molecules in each and every one of your cells. Now the process to do that takes 8 weeks of taking this product in order to fully get your cells full again. Now that's super important because our immunity depends on that. The function of our digestive system depends on that. The balancing of our hormones depend on that. But one of the most important things I like is the effect it has on the nervous system and allowing your nervous system to thrive and function. So many of you know I specialize in brain health and severe brain and spinal trauma. And so many of those patients that have had trauma to the brain, they've lost what we call the dominant frequency, which is the most important part of our brain. It's our true potential of what our brain can do. And this is one of the only products, supplement-wise, that we can take that will literally help grow a myelin sheath back around that brain and turn the cortex into very healthy, viable tissue once again. So this is something that they thought was impossible to do. Once your brain tissue's been damaged, you can't grow that back. So we do neurofeedback training to aggressively grow the tissue back and to reprogram the way the nervous system is functioning. But we also use those redox signaling molecules to make sure that the strength of the cells and that the communication between the cells works so much better. And we need to grow that protective layer around the brain. And this is one of the only products that I know can literally do that. So why is it important that we take this supplement? Don't our bodies make this for ourselves? Well, you know, they actually do. Many of you know about something called glycolysis, where we take sugar and insulin, and in the mitochondria of our cell, it's like the powerhouse of the cell. Those two things come together and gives us energy. It's called ATP, and this energy is vital to keep our bodies alive and to keep the charge going on our nerves, to make the nerves function and fire. Now, we literally produce our body's weight every day in that ATP, so it's super important. We produce it and burn it up for fuel every single day. That's the extent of what they teach on glycolysis, but what they're not saying is that engine that makes that energy, that the sugar and the insulin turns into ATP, it has an exhaust pipe. And out of that exhaust pipe is what comes redox signaling molecules. For decades, we thought it was a waste product. And then we learned that this is vital to the function of each and every one of our cells to be able to make that communication network happen so we can communicate from cell to cell to cell and know how to defend ourselves and how to keep ourselves healthy and alive. So for those of you that are new to this product, don't worry, it takes about 8 weeks before you're going to get the full effect of it. And then if you ever stop taking it, it takes 8 weeks for you to return to the state that you're at now. So this is definitely one of those products that years ago made it into my inner circle of things that I do for myself and that my family does for themselves, and for each and every patient that we're trying to restore proper nervous system and proper brain function. This is a critical nutrient that we want to make sure that you're taking in order to help us get the best results possible. So I hope that helps, and until next time, have a great day. What that is. And so let
Stop the share. Okay, that was so interesting. I do want to reiterate, he talked about it takes 8 weeks to get the full effect. Yes, in your body, but to help those long-term issues you've been dealing with, those will not be fixed in 8 weeks. So just realize that it will take time, but at least you'll be ramping up the level of your redox molecules. So now I want to introduce our guest speaker tonight. I met Susan in Fort Worth earlier this year and was just amazed by her testimony. I just happened to be walking past and I heard her talking about it, and I thought, okay, she would be a good guest for Nurse Talk. So Susan Pyne, she is, her husband had been a business owner for 25 years, insurance agent, but they've retired now. And Susan is from Roanoke, Virginia, and she has 2 grown children. Melissa, I met also when I met Susan, but I have not met her son. So I'm going to let Susan take it away and just talk and give us her testimonial. And like I said, put questions in the chat and we'll try to answer those at the end. And then Joy and I'll ask a few questions of her as well once she's finished. Susan?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on. And I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over some bug. I'm not sure what. But one of the Christmas crowds, I guess, came along and got me. Anyway, my story with the redox signaling molecules, before I had ever heard of them, I developed an autoimmune disorder, a joint disorder, back when I was 49 years old. That was in 2006. And it was a severe form. So it's not even an easy case. And the doctor told me at that time that I would be in a wheelchair in 2 years. And they would try to slow it down, but I had a severe form of it. So the fight began as I fought for my health. I'm a horse rider. At the time, I actually was competing in 50-mile endurance events with my horse. So I was pretty athletic. And all of a sudden, it was all taken from me. I was one of those that overnight, all the swelling set in, every joint, and the pain was just enormous. And so I worked for years with natural doctors or medical doctors, but they did functional medicine because mainstream medicine didn't have much to offer me. They had some drugs to slow it down, but that was, I wanted it cured. I didn't want to slow it down. And I did manage to put it into remission for like 7 years. And then they discovered and pulled an infected root canal, and it came roaring back. And that was in 2019. This time it was much worse than the first time, and the first time was severe. So I went down the path again of working with doctors that practice functional medicine, but nothing was working, nothing I did. The same magic could not seem to be met. And finally, in the spring of this year, I tried a sauna protocol. Excuse me, cost me $700. I paid a coach to help me coach, and I'm trying to detox my body. I'm trying to get well. And through this program, I met Anita Warren. And Anita, that ended up being such a faithful friendship. After the sauna protocol also did not work, I was extremely depressed. I was crippling badly. I walked around on crutches. I had a stool with wheels that I could do some house chores like cook and wash dishes because it was in my feet, my ankles, my knees, my hands, my shoulders, my elbows, my jaw. It was everywhere. And I couldn't stand for very long. I didn't have any energy. I was just exhausted all the time. Trying to push through pain is hard. And the medications, I was on all the medications that they have for this disease. I was on them all, and it was doing nothing. And I would cry to my doctor. I'd say, it's not even helping me. It's not even helping me. So Anita, after we failed sauna protocol, she calls me one day and she says, I found out about a product and you've got to try it. It's going to help you. I know it's going to help you. And I was like, no, the answer is no. I'm done. I'm tired spending our money on trying to regain my health and nothing works. And no. And she didn't quit. She just kept coming back and saying, I know this is going to work. I know this is going to help you. Finally, just to shut her up, I was like, okay, I'll try it. And it was, of course, redox signaling molecules. Well, I think I still, about once a month, post a big thank you to Anita that she didn't take my no as the final answer. And it worked for me. It did work for me. It worked miracles for me. And all of a sudden, and it was fast. I was a fast responder. I know not everyone is. So I hate to say it that way, but I was. I think the only thing I was lacking was redox signaling molecules because I had spent years trying everything else and nothing will work. Alan Noble says this in his video. If you don't have enough redox signaling molecules in your body, nothing else you do will matter. He's right. I can tell you he's right. Nothing else worked. But the minute I started supplementing, within 2 weeks, I was pain-free. And I went from being very crippled to barely able to walk to pain-free. And my husband would be sitting at the dining room table having his coffee, and I'd come down the hall. And before the redox signaling molecules, you'd hear the crutches. I would be shuffling very slow because first thing in the morning is the worst time for my autoimmune condition. So now I was just walking down the hall, normal, no crutches, no pain. And I got straight up out of bed with no pain, came down the hall. And when I would get in the dining room, he'd be staring at me in shock and he'd say, "You're not crippled. You're not," I mean, he couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But it's true. It's my story. It's true. And that was in March. March 20th was the day I began. And then a month later, well, actually 2 months later in June, I was scheduled for cataract surgery, lens replacement because of cataracts. And they had gotten really bad, and I flunked the BAT test, which meant the insurance would pay for my surgery. And so I was going to meet with the surgeon to schedule the surgery. And someone mentioned on one of the talks, the morning talks, that putting these ASEA drops in their eyes improve their vision. Well, I was having horrible vision, like very hazy. If you've ever had cataracts, it's like looking through fog. And then double vision when I would look at lights. So reading my computer, reading my phone was very challenging because of the backlight. And I started putting the drops in my eyes. And within days, it didn't take long at all, the haze went away, the double vision went away. I could read my cell phone without any trouble whatsoever. So by the time I got to the surgeon, I said, "Please retest me. I think I don't need the surgery." And she retested me and I passed the test. So that was another win. And then 6 months later, like in March, when I started the redox, I also had my teeth cleaned. And 6 months later, I went for my second cleaning, and she said, "Are you doing something different with your dental care?" And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "You had number 4 pockets in your gum." She says, "That's bad. We don't like to see that." And I said, "Well, how's it look now?" And she said, "Healthy. Your gums are healthy. What are you doing?" Of course, redox signaling molecules. There wasn't anything else. I hadn't done anything else different. I didn't even know I had number 4 pockets in my gums. I mean, she hadn't shared that with me back in March. So I didn't even realize that it improved my gum health too. And now it's been 9 months. I've been on them 9 months now. Some of the joint damage that I've had has improved completely. One of them is my right elbow was damaged and I could not reach past here. I couldn't reach my ear or my cheekbone, couldn't go behind my neck, couldn't touch my collarbone because I had a damaged elbow. Well, that's gone. You can see I can now have full range of motion with both arms. So I'm even seeing joint improvement as time goes on. And I have every hope that I'm going to see even more joint improvement with time. I think I covered it.
You did. That was awesome. I'm really impressed. And I wonder if it's because, okay, with an autoimmune issue, your body is really sensitive and really ramped up. So I wonder if the fact that your body was already in that autoimmune state, that things just worked easier for you, that you were able to see results because you had such a long way to come. It wouldn't have taken much to show you that it was working. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I don't know if I can explain why, except that it might have been the only thing left that I hadn't addressed was redox, and I had never heard of it. How would I address something I'd never heard of? But my doctors, usually doctors are such skeptics, but both my family doctor and my rheumatologist had seen me plenty, and they knew how bad off I was. And now all of a sudden I show up in their office and I'm beaming and I'm moving like a normal person. I'm not, I can stand and just normal, not stiff and sore. And then I'm joyful, like the joy that was coming out of me because I've gotten my life back. And so they're very thrilled for me. My rheumatologist said that he's going to declare me in remission if I look this good at our next visit. So then he's going to stop the medications, which I've cut them in half anyway. And he's, with his approval, he's fine with that. But he'll stop them altogether if this continues to go the way it's going. So I'm very excited with that.
So did he ask you what you're taking? And
Oh,
is he a
well,
believer?
no.
Does-
Yes and no. He, my doctor now, she's kind of, she's a mainstream doctor, but she's very open-minded to holistic things. She knows all about redox signaling molecules. I don't know how she's so savvy on them. She's a DO, but she knew all about them and, the natural form of them. I don't know if she'd ever heard of the SIA, but she did want more information, so I did send it to her, and then nothing more after that. But the rheumatologist, I think she warned him because they don't have a sense of humor. I don't know how many you have worked with, but they're dry. They are the driest people. And I guess because they work with patients who never improve, nothing in their field gets better. And anyway, she said, be sure and tell Dr. Bayless. And I said, well, I don't think I'm going to say anything to him. I said, he'll ridicule me. He'll put it down. She said, no, he won't. He won't. Well, I think she warned him because when I told him about it, I brought him a pamphlet too. But when I told him about it, he said, well, that's not proven. But he said, you do look a lot better. He said, your inflammation is almost completely gone. And so he was very nice about it. But I wouldn't say they're going to sign up tomorrow and start selling it.
Well, number one, I would disagree that it's not proven. Obviously, you approve. But secondly, we just released the white papers that this stuff is real and that it does what it says it does.
And thank you for saying that, because I'm going to send it to both of them.
Right,
They've been on
exactly.
this journey with me. They know
Right.
about all this. They know how good I am now. So.
I mean, you were literally a walking miracle to walk in there, like you said, without being crippled. So that should have gotten their attention right off the bat. What was the time frame from when you first were introduced to that by Anita and you said no to when you came back around? You may have told me and I
I
missed
think
it.
it took her a month. I think
A
it took
month.
about a month. Yeah.
Okay.
She was very persistent. And I always, when people are talking about how others, are not receptive, I always tell my story. I'm like, don't let that bother you. Because I was definitely not receptive. And now I'm just like, oh, thank God she didn't just go on down the road. This
Right.
was my answer. And I didn't know.
Well, that's what I tell people. I mean, it's like we talked about, 15 to 20 years before something new gets into practice, gets into mainstream. In the meanwhile, think of the people that could feel better because of this if they just said yes or looked at it. They just looked at it.
And the things it's doing for us internally that we can't even realize
Right.
until we get
That's
blood work done or the next heart test, And it's doing things that you don't feel it doing, but
right.
it's doing it. There's
It
no
is.
question everybody benefits from increasing the amount of redox signaling molecules in their body.
Right. Well, it's like I tell people, they say they don't feel it and they don't think it's working. When you're put on a statin for your cholesterol, that doesn't work overnight and you don't feel it anyway. You don't even know if it's doing anything until you go back to the doctor maybe 6 or 9 months later to see if your levels are low. And actually, redox might even assist in that. So we won't go there. Doria, do you have questions? And anyone in the chat?
See. So just a couple comments here so that we know that this is not eternity in a bottle. Okay. So like Susan shared, she got a little bug, it's not going to, people think if they get on redox, they may be a little skeptical and think, okay, well, if redox is so special and so amazing, then why did she get this bug? Well, how I see it is she's still filling up those coffers. She's still replenishing herself with the molecules, but just think how bad she might have been if she wasn't on it. That's how I look at it. We're not, we're in the environment, there's stressors out there, so we're exposed every day. And the important thing is to make sure that we're drinking lots of water, be hydrated, that we're eating really good foods. It doesn't have to be organic, but definitely foods that are good for you. So those all play a part. So I'm sure, had she not been on redox signaling molecules, she may still be sick in bed or something like that, or worse off than what she, is now, but, so I just wanted to make that comment. And then, you talked about all the different modalities that you did with all the different protocols, and you alluded to what Alan Noble says, that this is a missing link. So, it's important, like Cindy is sharing about the vitamin D, and some other, I call those the building materials. Those are all really important. But if you don't have redox signaling molecules, they're not going to work very efficiently in your body. They're going to allow those things to work, to get, into your cell, to work, to whatever function they have to work at that, at that means. So the only thing I wanted to ask you was, you were taking the redox. Were you doing the gel as well, the redox signaling molecules that are in our gel form?
I actually did both at the same time. And the gel was wonderful for, it got rid of the age spots on the back of my hands, which I had a lot, and they're gone. The skin does look younger, the hands look younger. They helped with muscle pain. They didn't help me as much with the joint pain, but I find that this particular autoimmune disorder, I know we don't like to say the names, does not respond to creams and pain relievers and things that other forms of this can, arthritis, other forms of arthritis do respond to, but this autoimmune condition does not. So that wasn't odd to me that it didn't help sometimes with the joint pain. But the drink got rid of the joint pain within a couple of weeks. And then it was sort of rocked back and forth. It wasn't like a solid pain-free from then on, but it quickly became that, like maybe in 2 to 3 months. Like now I don't even think about hurting anymore. It's no longer a fear or concern. You used to wake up and you'd move very slow in the bed, like what's going to hurt today? And none of that anymore. I don't even have to worry about it. I can squat to the ground. Had not been able to do that for 2 years because it was in my knees, but now I can squat to the ground and stay down there and perfectly comfortable. And it just goes on. I do want to say one thing to what you said about that, it's not the cure-all of anything. When people say, like, how could you get sick when you're on the redox? They repair and replace cells. They're not an antibiotic. It's not an antiviral. It's not going to go attack the invader, but it is going to repair and replace the cell that invader goes into. And that's what these invaders do. They get in our cells. And it's going to, if it replaces a cell that's got a flu bug in it, it's going to flush that particular flu bug in that particular cell out. So it's going to start repairing and replacing what the bug is trying to do to you. And it's also going to kick it out through cell replacement through that. So it is in there helping, but it's not going to like prevent you from getting sick. And in my case, my mother had this first. She's 97. I'm her caretaker. She got sick first. They had to give her oxygen treatments. It was, I hit her really hard. My husband got it second. He had it for 4 weeks before he finally went to the doctor. I nursed him through all of that. And then I finally got it. So it took me a while to even get sick. And I think redox probably is part of the reason why. I've been sick. It'll be a week tomorrow. And I'm already back up and running. I just have the nasally condition. That sounds bad, but I'm not feeling bad at all. So I think it did help me recover fast. But for sure, it's repairing and replacing the cells that the bug was invading. So I wouldn't want to be without it going through this.
Sure. So how much were you drinking as of the redox signaling molecules? How much was
That's
that?
a good question. I started on the 4 ounces a day, the minimum they recommend, and stuck with it from March until September. And it got all those improvements on 4 ounces a day. In September, we went to the convention in Fort Worth, Texas. So I had to fly, and flying routinely, the air pressure of flying will swell my feet and my knees. I mean, this is a thing I've dealt with for years. And this was no different. It did it, even though I had on support socks. I do the things to try to prevent it. It still did. And so when I got off the plane and was walking to the train, trying to get to the hotel, My daughter, who's like a speed walker, she's very athletic. She was just way out walking me. My feet were hurting a little bit and from the air, the swelling from the plane. And we get to the hotel and they give us a bottle of Acia. And we're going to be there 4 days and it's 32 ounces. And I didn't want to fly any of it home. So I thought, okay, while I'm here, I'm going to take 8 ounces a day. that evening, I took my first 4 ounces, and the next morning I took 4 ounces, and then I went zooming around Fort Worth, just zooming. My daughter and I were pace for pace, and I was chatting. I wasn't winded. She's 48, I'm 68, but I had no trouble keeping up with her when I went to 8 ounces. So guess what? I'm still on 8 ounces. But 4 ounces did me more the good. 8 ounces did me even better. So
awesome. So you don't look like you're 68. So do you use our skincare as well?
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Am I plugging? Let me plug. I did get their whole skincare set, and I love it. I love it. It's unbelievable. My skin feels like silk when I wear it. And I bought it right before I went to convention. So that was right before the 20th of September. I'm still using the original set. It's starting to get low, but that's a really good value, a really, really good value. So yes, I use the skincare. I use the gel on my face and my neck, and I did see improvements a lot in the face. I did.
Thank you.
I noticed that Barbara did put in the chat that the ASEA supplements do have over 400% of vitamin D. We're just going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Good to know.
Yeah, it is good to know. I thought it had, I just didn't know exactly what the level was. So, Susan, like I said, you had such a good reaction and a quick reaction, but I think you had so many issues that it just worked so quickly on you. And some people don't notice it. Maybe theirs aren't as severe, or if it's not an autoimmune, it may not work as quickly. I don't know. It's very interesting. Any other questions in the chat? And Susan, I didn't think to send the flyer to Anita, but I figured she saw it on Facebook because we're on Facebook together. So
Anita,
she'll be on next week.
Yeah, right. She's vacationing.
I saw her. Yeah.
Did you see that she what do you call it? Skydive?
Parasail or something, or was it skydiving? Or
she skydived. Today is her 77th birthday, and she went skydiving. And I'm sure she will tell you how much redox picked up her energy and her health. So she's on next week.
She is on next week.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you appreciate her introducing you to this. And that's the thing, that's why Dory and I have such a passion, is just sharing, because you don't know who this will touch and you don't know what this can do for them.
That's right.
It's amazing. Well, we appreciate you coming on so much. We appreciate everyone listening. Dory, I'll let you close us out if you want and introduce, well, we kind of talked about our next guest, but you can go ahead.
That's okay. So it looks like I don't know most of these people that are on this evening, but if this is your first time hearing about this technology, please get back to the person that invited you to this Zoom, and they can send you to some other tools that we have that talk about more in depth about what the redox signaling molecules do for your body. Also, some other testimonials that you can look at. And Cindy and I, are both nurses. Cindy's full-time, I'm part-time, but I'm also doing this, sharing and educating people on this technology. So if you're looking to make a little side income, this is a great way to do it. We have a great culture, a great team. No, you're not an island by yourself. We work together and help each other. So be thinking about that. This is, I never thought. I used to work 2 jobs, and I was able to let go of one of those because I'm sharing this technology with people. So, pray about it and see if that's something that you'd like to do. So thank you again for being on this evening with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week with Anita Warren.
I did want to let everyone know we do upload these to our YouTube videos. So go to YouTube and just search Redox Nurse Talk, and you should see most of our past videos. But you can look at them there once. I'll get it uploaded by tomorrow. But we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, and we will have the lady that introduced Anita to this technology. And I'm sure she will have a story. I think someone's trying to get in. They must be late. I'm sure she will have a story to share about her skydiving event. I don't think I will be doing that at any age. Anyway, thank you for coming, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Susan.
Good night.
Stop the
Bye.
recording here.
Great.